Oh, okay. Another day completed at work. And now I'm on my way home. So I decided to do this little video. I don't know. Kind of like a journal. To let my daughters know, or maybe let my daughters see a side of me that they don't get to see. You know, because I work a lot. And sometimes I don't spend that much time with my daughters. So I said, let me just make this journal entry. And maybe they can know a little bit about me that they don't know or that they don't get to see. My name is Raymond, and I want to say, or I want to tell a little bit about my story. I may have a interesting story to tell. I may bore you to death. But to be honest with you, it's my story to tell. And I want to tell it. I see a lot of people, they make these videos, and I say, you know, that would be a great idea for me to kind of do that for my daughters, for myself, just to just to let just to kind of blow some steam and let them know. I'm 49 years old. I work for an airline. I was born in Puerto Rico in 1976. I had a great childhood. My childhood was the best. Not gonna lie. There were some struggles, but my mom tried to do her best. I'm the oldest of 5. I got 3 brothers and 1 sister that I love very much, and I don't see them as much, but they're always in my heart. And I think about them constantly. And I would love to see them. We kind of all spread out, you know, but I think they're thinking about doing a family reunion, and I'm going to try my best to make it to this family reunion. So I haven't seen my mom in a long time. I'm not proud to say that, but I just haven't seen her, you know. She's in Puerto Rico, and sometimes it's really hard for me to make it over there. You know, sometimes it's harder for me to go there, and then it's harder for me to get out of there. You're doing, you know, buddy passes or non-rep travel. And I would love to see my mom. I miss her dearly. And you know, she gave me the best, or she gave us the best that she could for being a single mother. You know, my dad, he died. He died many years ago. But I was never really close to him because, you know, he and my mom separated when we were young. That's in a story of itself that I still remember. He would come and see us very sporadically. And, you know, I only have but a few memories of my dad, you know, and I cherish those memories. The saddest memory that I have of my dad was when I don't want to say that he walked out on my mom. Maybe he had his own reasons for doing so. He affect me? Somewhat it did. Because it's hard when you don't have your dad. You know, your father's supposed to teach you many things. And I learned most of the things that I learned either from my friends or from some of my stepdads that were in the picture. But, you know, I love my dad. You know, I was too young not to not love him. But the saddest memory that I have, and I want to take you on this little trip of the memory that I have of him that I never forgot. I remember this was probably the late 70s, I want to say. Yeah, it was like the late 70s, because I was born in 76. I was probably about maybe 5 years old when this happened. And I remember, like, you know, it was yesterday. We used to live in a beautiful house made out of wood in Puerto Rico, on top of this mountain. And I remember that it was just my house on this little piece of land on top of this mountain. Open sky. The house was made out of wood. The ceiling was made out of metal, like the old timers back in the days. And it was my mom, my dad, myself, and my younger brother, Johnny, that was a baby. And I remember this one day, I'm playing with my dad in the living room / kitchen in the house. And I'm kind of like climbing all over him on the floor, and you know, just horsing around with my dad. And then I remember that my dad got up because he saw my grandfather and my grandmother coming up the hill to visit us. You know, and to visit my mom, I guess. And, you know, my dad was there. And, you know, my grandfather was a very strong man. He was, his name was Juan de Dios, John of God. And he had a terrible, terrible temper. And he was very strong, Indian male, you know, broad shoulders, strong, because he never worked in, you know, he never really had a job. He supported my mom's family through selling metal in Puerto Rico. He would sell metal. He would go out early mornings to pick up metal from everywhere, and then he would sell it, and he'll come home, and that's how he supported his family. He was a very hardworking man. I am not going to lie to you. He built his own house. He used to go into the country looking for viandas and roots, and he was, even though he was not a very intelligent man, because he dropped out of school when, I think it was in the first grade, he dropped out of school. He was a very responsible man. He took care of his family his own way, but he had a hot temper. I'm gonna tell you this, everyone in my family was scared of my grandfather. Okay? They had respect for that man, all right? That man commanded respect. When he stepped into the house, everybody was in their best behavior. He commanded respect. So I'm playing with my dad in our little wooden house in Puerto Rico, and I see my dad gets up. He looks outside the front door, and he sees my grandfather coming over with my grandmother. And then, you know, my grandfather, he had his guayabera on, that was white. and he walks around with a hat, and he had white shoes on, and he was like a don. You know what I mean? And we call old people in Puerto Rico Don. Don Juan, Don John, Don Rey. And my father saw me, and my father used to have a lot of respect for my grandfather. Oh boy. I think he had a lot of respect, and he was terrified of my grandfather too. And I remember that my father got up real quick, and he got dressed, put on a yellow shirt. I will never forget that yellow shirt. It is engraved in my mind because it was kind of like a yellow-orange shirt. As a matter of fact, years after, I found the same color, and I think subconsciously, I bought a shirt with that same color. And he put on this button-down yellow shirt, yellow-orange shirt. And he had the shorts on to receive my grandfather and my grandmother. And they start talking, and my grandmother goes into the kitchen with my mother, and they're talking. And my grandfather and my father are talking as well. And I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not really paying attention to what's happening, but I am aware of what's happening, that the grown-ups are talking. So I remember that out of nowhere, my grandfather got very loud. He got very loud with my father. See, because the problem of my grandfather was that he didn't like my father so much because he thought my father was lazy. See, my father was a man of God. He was a preacher. He loved to preach. Everything to him was God, God, God. Which I understand because you are a man of the faith, And he didn't want to work hard because he didn't want to, my mom used to tell me the story, he didn't want to dirty his nails because they wouldn't be presentable for when he was going to go preach. And my grandfather wasn't hearing that. My grandfather knew that my mom could have been doing a whole lot better, I guess, or that we were not being given what we were supposed to be getting from him. And my grandfather always looked down on him. And I remember that my grandfather got really loud with my father. So then they walked from the living room into the balcony of the house. And the balcony was made out of wood, with the crosses, made out of wood. And my father was sitting on the edge of the balcony. He was sitting right on top, and he's talking to my grandfather. And I don't know what my father said to my grandfather, but my grandfather did not like it. And all I remember was that I'm in the middle of the living room, and my grandfather runs into the kitchen, and all I can see was the resemblance of his clothing, the color of his clothing, just shoot past me like a shadow. And he went over to the kitchen and picked up the machete. He had a machete in the kitchen. My father did. And he takes this machete and he runs back to where my father is, and he swings at my father with the machete. Now my father, if he didn't throw himself backwards from the balcony, he would have gotten cut. And I remember that my father kind of threw himself back, landed in the mud on his back. And I remember me seeing that yellow-orange shirt covering mud. And my grandfather running after my father down the hill, chasing after him with a machete. I don't think after that my mom and my dad were together much. think they separated. I think my mom went back to live with my grandparents. And my father, he went out on his own. And, you know, he would, I think I might have remembered 2 times that he came to see me after that happened. My father, he kind of left. I don't know what he was doing. But I remember one day I'm with my grandmother, not my mother's mother, but my father's mother. I'm with my grandmother in her house in Santolaya in Puerto Rico. And I remember that my grandmother, I used to have this little yellow Tonka truck. And I would be playing with this little yellow Tonka truck. By this time, I want to say maybe I'm 6, maybe 7. My brother Johnny's maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 2. And I remember that I'm playing with my little Tonka truck, and then I look at the gate, and there's my father. And my father came to see us. And I think he told my grandmother, his mother, he told my grandmother, get them ready. I'm going to take them on a trip. This is the only trip that I remember going with my dad. And he took us on this trip, and we were going to go to San Juan. He took us to a park in San Juan, I remember. Okay? So we are in this park. I remember that we took, because he didn't have a car, so we took the bus. And we took this old, raggedy, Puerto Rican green with green window 1970 bus. And I remember that, you know, a lot of people in Puerto Rico drive, so there's not a lot of people on the bus. But I remember that my brother Johnny and myself and my father are in the back of the bus. And we kind of lay in on my father's lap. Each one of us put their head in their lap. And my father had a watch. And I kind of got fixated on the watch, and I took it off his wrist. And I started playing with the watch. And we're going on this trip. And I fell asleep. And when it was time to get up, we kind of got up real quick, and I forgot the watch. I forgot the watch on the bus. And when my father asked me, hey, where's my watch? I said, I don't know. And then he figured that I left it on the bus. But he didn't get mad. I don't think I ever remember my father getting mad or seeing him raise his voice or be mad. I don't remember that. It could have happened, I just don't remember. And then I remember that we walked from the bus stop to the park. And I remember that in this park there was this old lady, and she's selling toys. And me and my brother walked by the old lady, and we see these little toys, and they used to be rubber Indians. They were made out of rubber, and you were able to twist their arms and their legs. And he bought one for me, and he bought one for my brother Johnny. Oh, and we were happy, man. Oh, that was a beautiful day. That was a beautiful day that we spent with my dad. I think that's probably the only memory that I got of him. Well, no, I also got other memories, but that was the one that really made an impact on me. There was another memory that I had of him during, we used to go to the river, to the lake, because by my grandmother's house there used to be a little lake, like a little waterfall. I used to love that waterfall. Every day we used to go to that waterfall. And in that waterfall, the mothers around the neighborhood used to do their laundry. They used to go where the water was running down with their little, back in the day, they used to use a washboard and detergent. And they would go into the lake with the kids, and all the kids would be playing at the lake, and the mothers would be doing the laundry. And I remember one day my father was there, and for some strange reason he decided to take a bath in the lake. So he's having soap and he's lathering himself up in the lake. And my father was skinny. At this time he was very skinny. And he put the soap down on a rock, and I came over and I kicked the soap. And I wish you would have seen my father running down the lake or running down the river, butt naked, chasing after the soap. And then I also remember another memory that I have of him. One time we took a shower together. My brother Johnny, myself, and my father. And he was showing us how to wash ourselves, you know? And then I remember that when the shower was over, he put on cologne, and he was putting cologne on us. And I never forget the cologne, because it smells so good. And he was this old-fashioned cologne called English Leather. And to this day, I still love that cologne, English Leather. There was one of my childhood's smell. There was English Leather, and there was also Jean Natel. Jean Natel was like a little cologne that you would put on babies. The mothers used to love to drench the baby's blanket. Even when my daughter was born, I was lucky enough to get a bottle, and I did it for Brianna. I bathed her in Jean Natel. I love that fragrance. And I think those are kind of like the memories that I got of my dad. You know, after that, I don't think I saw him much. Then he moved over to Texas. And that's funny how things turn out. He moved over to Texas, and we just lost contact. He got a new family. He was preaching. And then one day I remember, I think this was probably in the early 90s. In the early 90s, I remember my mom pulled me over to the side, me and my brother Johnny. And we used to live in Pitkin Avenue in Brooklyn. And she pulled us over to the side and she let us know that our dad had passed away. And to be honest with you, I didn't cry. I didn't know how to feel about it. Because again, like, I don't have a lot of memories of him. But I did love the man, you know. He was just never kind of like a father to me. He was my dad, but he wasn't my dad. And I didn't know how to feel about that. I didn't know how to feel about him passing away. I was sad, but I wasn't heartbroken, you know. I think that my thought was more like, oh, I don't have a dad anymore, you know. And I don't know how my brother Johnny felt, but I think at that time I was probably maybe 14, 15 years old when he passed away. And that's one of the few memories that I got of my dad, you know. Now, my mom, that's a different story. See, my mom, I'm going to be honest with you, she was probably the sweetest woman you would ever meet. There is not one bad bone in my mom. She loved her kids. She tried to do everything for her kids. And I remember that there was a time in Puerto Rico where I think my mom got into an argument with my granddad, and we got kicked out the house. We got kicked out the house probably a couple times, to be honest with you. I told you, my granddad was not an easy man. and we got kicked out of the house. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I will never forget. I want to paint this picture for you. We're in Puerto Rico. It's hot. It's the middle of the night. Everything is dark. The only thing you can see is the street lights. And back in those days, the street lights had like this amber color. Back in the 70s, 80s, they had like this amber color. And we were walking. It would be my mother, myself, and my brother Johnny on a baby carriage. And me tugging onto my mom's skirt. And we would be walking the streets late at night, waiting for people to go to sleep so that we can find a place to sleep on people's balconies. I'll never forget that. And there was kind of like a routine that we would have. My mom would wait for the people to go to sleep. When all the lights are off in the house, she would creep up in the house with me and my brother. She would fold the baby carriage. She would take me and put me in the balcony. Then she would pass me the baby carriage. Then she would pass me my little brother, Johnny, and then she would climb over the balcony. And we would sleep in the people's balcony and wake up real early before everybody wakes up so that we can move on to the next thing that we were going to do that day. We were homeless. And I always remember that. My mom doing that. And I remember this one night, my mom, she was very tired. And we go through the routine. And we waited for this house. The lights went off. My mom did the routine with the baby carriage and my brother and me. And I don't know what happened that I think my mom overslept. And now it was now early in the morning. And the owners of the house opened the balcony door. And when they opened the balcony door, the door hit my mom in the leg. And that woke her up. And my mom was so very apologetic to the lady. And she goes, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm going to be on my way. I'm going to be on my way. Please forgive me. And the lady's like, dear child, what are you doing? Why are you sleeping in my balcony? Oh my God, you got 2 little kids. No, come inside, come inside. And she takes us inside and she gives us food. And I remember me spending, I think we spent some time with that lady. We lived with that lady for some time while my mom would get back on her feet, you know? But, you know, one thing that I can say is that my mom, she never gave up. She was always hustling. And she would always have all of her kids. When we got later, when we got more of us, you know, like my brother Alex, my sister Jada, my brother Chris, you know, still, she would always have all of us. It was either all of us or none of us. And she wasn't very lucky at love. I'm going to be honest with you. She was not very lucky at love. She would kind of fall in love with the wrong person. And I don't know if it was love or maybe it was that you know, she needed somebody to help her, you know? So she's looking for that safety that a man can provide, you know? But some of the men were not the greatest men, you know? My brother Alex's father, that motherfucker was crazy, you know what I mean? That dude, you know, he would take my little brother Alex and he would burn his hand on the stove whenever my little brother Alex would do something wrong. I remember that. I also remember my sister Jada's father. His name was Angel. Angel would always threaten my mother that he was going to take my sister away. And you know, and my mom would like fight him off. And I remember this one time in the middle of the night, my mom got us all together, and we're kind of running around Puerto Rico, trying to get away from my sister's father. And we are, and I'll never forget this. We were with some friends of my mother, and we're driving around Puerto Rico in the middle of the night, and we had to stay at a motel. And I slept with my mother's friend and his wife in this room. And the AC was so cold that I couldn't sleep. And all of that because we were trying to get away from my sister's father. But my mom never gave up. He never gave up any of us. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the story of my father that I can remember. The story of my stepdad that was Alex's father. And then he had a very bad temper, that guy. Oh my God, he had a bad temper. Then you had Jada's father, which was, you know, I don't know. He was just, I think he wanted to assume his power over my mother, something like that. And then we have Chris's father. Chris's father was, I see Chris, and he reminds me so much of him because he was kind of like this slick gentleman. You know, he had the hair combed back, and he was very articulated. And I don't know if his name, I don't remember if his name was William or something like that. But it was, he didn't really give my mom a hard time, except for the fact that, you know, he was married, and my mom did not know. And she found out very late, and then she found out after she was pregnant with my brother Chris. And I think the guy's wife, she used to stutter. And I remember one time my aunt used to live with us, and we used to have this great house in Puerto Rico. It was kind of like a you know, a well-off house. It was a really nice house. It had a wall that was made out of marble, and it was really sweet. Big backyard, big front yard. And I remember this one time, it was late at night. My aunt used to live with us and her kids. And this lady shows up at our gate. And she's asking for my mother. And she's stuttering when she's talking. That's how she's talking to my mom. And then you know you're doing wrong. Something like that, but in Spanish. And my mom is a scary cat. She doesn't know how to fight. She doesn't want to fight. She's a mom. But my aunt, she don't give a fuck. My aunt was rough. My aunt loves to fight. So this lady shows up in front of my gate of our house, and she is trying to start a fight with my mom. And I think she brought two butch ladies with her. Right? And my aunt, you know, being fresh, she goes to my mom, well, if you're not going to fight them, I'll fight them. And my mom went out there like a trooper. My aunt. went out there, my aunt went out there like a trooper. And she fought all three of those ladies. The two butch and the lady that was the wife of Chris's father. She fought them. She got ass kicked, but she still fought them. And that, to this day, I have a lot of respect for my aunt. Because she's a fighter, man. She don't mess around. And that was Chris's dad. You know, but through all of that, through all the ups and downs, my mom never left any of us. And when there was not enough to eat, I remember this one time we stayed in the countryside, deep in the jungle. And we used to stay with my mother's friends. And there wasn't a lot of food. And I think there was like maybe 2 eggs. And my mom boiled those 2 eggs. And she split the eggs. And she gave me a piece. She gave my brother Johnny a piece. She gave my brother Alex a piece. And I think my sister was around. She gave her a piece. And there was none left for my mom. And I'm eating my piece of egg, and I noticed that my mom is not eating. So I asked my mom, "Hey, Mom, why you not eating?" And she kind of made it look like she was putting something in her mouth. And she started acting like she was chewing. But she had nothing in her mouth. And we really didn't have that much to eat, you know, and she did that. I remember we ate white rice and ketchup because there was no money. I remember we had so many things to do. Like there wasn't a lot of food in our house, and my mom would always try to do something. But above all, she used to love all of us. And she would never give us up. At one point, my stepdad, Alex's father, he used to abuse my mom a lot. And we went on the run. And we ended up in this shelter, kind of like for abused women. We ended up in this shelter there in Puerto Rico. It was called Casa Julia de Burgos. I'll never forget it. And you go in there in this shelter, and it's like all females and kids. And they will provide you with food. And we were there for a couple weeks. I remember that. I never forget those struggles. The struggles that my mom used to go through. Casa Julia de Burgos. I remember. Yeah, you know, those are the little things that I don't know if I spoke to my daughters about it, but one day maybe if I'm lucky enough and YouTube's still around or this video gets archived somewhere, they can always come after I'm gone and they miss me. They can come and look at these videos and remember me, you know. But that was me, a little bit of my childhood. Even though, you know, I said that I had a great childhood. I had a great childhood because I was always with my mom, and my mom always tried to do the best. You know, my mom always tried to do the best. You know, I remember back in late 80s, we used to live in the projects, Puerto Rico. And my mom was messing around with the wrong guy again. And this guy, he was one of the drug dealers in the projects. I think his name was Neldo, something like that. I don't remember. Short guy, He used to wear shorts, Converse, knee-high socks, and a t-shirt. And he used to sell the drugs in Puerto Rico. Now, back in the days, it was very distinct than nowadays. Back in the days when you used to sell the drugs, you were kind of hidden. You didn't know who was selling the drugs. Because the drug dealers had respect for the people that lived in the projects. So my mom's messing around with this guy. And he also wanted to kind of assert control over my mom. And I'll never forgot this. My mom, I don't think my mom knew that I knew. But I did know. I never forgot this. The guy used to live with us. But I don't think he used to give my mom any money or anything like that. And I think this was some Christmas were coming up. And my mom goes to him and he goes, "Hey, Naldo, Christmas is coming up. I would like to get the boys some gifts." And Naldo was like, he told her, he said to her, "You want to give your boys some gifts? You know what you have to give me so that your boys can get those gifts." And I remember my mom getting up from where she was sitting and going with Naldo into the room. And I remember a couple minutes later, she would come out of the room and he would come out after her. And she tapped me in the shoulder and she said, "Come on, let's go Christmas shopping. I'm going to get my boy some toys." Yeah, I remember that. That was my mom. She did a lot for us. Yeah. So that's kind of like a little bit of my story. I may have other stories, but I kind of wanted to share that with you girls because, you know, your dad came from not much and he tried to do his best. You know, I try to do my best. And I want you guys to know a little bit of my story, even though I don't tell you that. Like I told you, one day you may look at this video and just remember. But that was growing up. Now there was times where, you know, growing up wasn't that bad, you know. Like I remember we used to live in the same projects, and you know, all the kids from the project would get together, and we would play baseball with a broomstick and a tennis ball. Or we would play hide and seek when the grass was real tall. Or we will tie up a string to our Tonka trucks. And I never forgot that. It was this rainy day. It was a very rainy day. I mean, it was raining cats and dogs. And all the kids got together. They all brought out the Tonka trucks, tied a little string to them, and we would run up and down the neighborhood with these Tonka trucks and the string, and making them splash. And oh man, that was a great memory. I also remember, you know, we used to go over to the arcade and play the arcades. And at that time the arcade was Double Dragon. Oh, I lost a lot of quarters to Double Dragon. Oh, there was also Operation Commando. Or there was a Green Beret. Or Jail Escape. All those games I played on the arcade. when I was growing up. You know, and that's kind of like some of the memories that I have that I like to share with you all. I'm gonna keep doing this every night. Maybe on the way home, or maybe on my way to work, and just kind of put my thoughts into these videos. Sometimes I might talk about some of the memories that I got growing up. Sometimes I may talk about some of the stuff that I'm doing now. But I want to make a big library so that my girls can look at it once I'm gone. You know, because we're not made out of rock. Eventually we're gonna have to go. I'm just hoping that when it's my time to go, my girls are set. They're in good hands. You know, and they can take care of themselves. And I know that I have done a good job. If I can make that happen, I know that I've done a good job. And I can tell the powers that be, take me. But I'm hoping that happens when it's time for that to happen. You know what I mean? And I think I'm just gonna leave it right there. I think I'll make another video when I get back to work on Wednesday. Okay. I want to thank whoever is looking at this video. I want to thank them for taking their time to look at this video. And you know, I'm not expecting to get anything out of this. It's just a random guy just spilling some memories. You know, that's about it. Thank you very much for listening. Brianna, Casey, I love you to death. You guys are the best thing that have ever happened to me. You are my two most favorite person in this whole wide world. And there is nothing that I wouldn't do for you girls. There's nothing that I wouldn't do for you girls twice. I love you dearly. And the best day of my life was when you girls were born. And every day after that just been a gift that keeps on giving. I love you.